making the sculptures has been really great because it's actual. So if you want a nose, you just stick your finger in there and it makes a nose. So it's an actual thing. And they sort of felt like they were singing, you know, and I just started to make these other ones open mouths. And I've worked with totems a lot in one way or another, and in the paintings too. Sometimes you'll catch yourself having preconceptions of doing something a certain way only because that's the way you do it. And those are the things by rote that you want to change, the things you haven't challenged. And so I, over time, started to, especially in the sculptures, take a lot of liberties with actual versus these sculptures. They could be anything I wanted. I think this is true of all art, the combination of a kind of a contrivance with a kind of truth. Truth and contrivance simultaneously, that's what I think of as art. One of the things that if I do something and then it feels like too much of a contrivance, then I can just go over it and go back in, and that I do a lot, like it's like a layering of things. In other words, I can either find another form in it, or I can just absolutely put something else on top and turn it into something else. You see, my thing is about a kind of engagement with this. This place is my head opened on a piece of canvas, but it's an engagement in there. When I mean true, it's that I am not conscious of what my painting is going to look like. I'm more engaging in a relationship with this thing. That's my you know, abstract expressionist orientation. I loved when they used to talk about Cézanne and that at any time the paintings were done. And I kind of feel like that. I mean, I feel like that there are times when I know they're not done, but there are many times when I feel like they could be done. There's nothing that you stick on so much here that doesn't somehow say, no, come on, look over here. And for me, my challenge in these paintings is to try to make each individual element really well formed so that the other part of it comes with the territory of this kind of thing. But I don't want them to just be stepping stones to one another now. I want them to be things that you actually care about individually too. I came from a kind of self-portrait orientation, and that's how I really kind of came about it. The more I'm in it, the truer it is, and the more I'm in it, the less it is about me. Even though in truth it's all about me. There's two things going on. One of them is this sort of desire to reveal myself to myself. And therefore, if that's honest, then other people respond. But the other part of it is, it's inseparable from the building of something. It's a visual language. So I love that. I love the idea that somehow, you know, the sense of magic that thing that's like a globby bit of paint or a line suddenly seems to become alive. Sometimes I think of them as being like choruses. They're the witnesses. They have a different consciousness. I left the figure out for a while, and when I returned to the figure, I think I really just cared more about the head and hands than I did about the torsos. And so when you have a giant head on a small body, they do have a quality of being baby-like. I decided that I wanted to make paintings that could work over a long period of time, that were like drawings, that were very thin, that never had a crusty surface, so that when you went in there to articulate something in line, you weren't trying to, you couldn't do it with this, you know what I mean? It's got such a sort of thick surface that it begins to dictate what the imagery is going to be. It's pleasure. That's the thing that I think is so critical. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to make something, and yeah, see, that's the, I am a traditionalist in that way. I want this thing. I ran into this guy who's a wonderful painter, and he's become extremely Zen, and I think there's a certain Zenness in me and in my work, and I was talking to him, but I said, you know, in the end, I feel like that there's a value in the object itself. It's not just the experience. I'm not entirely a pure abstract expressionist. I like the construct too, like I've said many times today, and he didn't agree. And to me, I feel like, yeah, that these become unto themselves, and that they have a kind of world and physicality of their own is also a pleasurable thing. I have thought about Chagall, and is another person that I certainly would not have put on the list of people that I in any way emulated. And he's a Jewish, to me there's something Jewish in his work. Maybe it's just the shtetlness of it, I don't know what. But this floating sense of things is definitely something that I have, or the idea that there's not necessarily, they don't have to be held into a convention a spatial convention that's true to the real world. I guess truth and beauty may be one thing. Yeah, I think that's, for me, if that isn't in some way the core of it, I don't really care about it.